I'm going to show you how to ice a cake using stiff consistency icing and the large cake icer tip. It needs to have its own 16-inch bag, and you're going to fill the bag just like you would any other piping bag. Make sure you don't overfill it because that's going to make a big mess if the icing starts coming out the top. I want to use the stiff consistency icing because I want it to crust over so that I can smooth it using a Viva paper towel. These are cake layers that I have already leveled, and you want to make sure you remember to put a dab of icing on your cake board before you put the first cake layer down. I'm also going to show you a different way to put filling in between the cake layers. This method prevents any sort of bulge from being around the middle of the cake. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to cut about 1/2 of an inch down all the way around the inside of this cake layer. You want to make sure and come in towards the center of the cake enough so that you're leaving a little bit of a wall, like a lip around the outside of the cake. And I'm just taking my angled spatula here and I'm going to dig out this top bit of cake here so that I'm creating a well on the bottom cake layer. The whole idea is that when you then put the top layer of cake on, its outer edge is going to come into contact with the bottom layer's outer edge so that the cake will touch the cake and there will be no way for any of the filling to bulge out the middle of the cake. And it works. It's a really great method. And so now I'm just going to add my filling. In this case, I'm just going to use some of this stiff consistency icing, and I'm just going to spread it evenly in this nice little crater that I made to hold it. And notice that I'm not going up above the lip. That's what I was talking about when I said that the top cake layer would touch the bottom cake layer. And then I'm just going to position the top layer on top, and you see it matches up just right. The cake icer tip is really easy to use once you get the hang of it. It took me a little while to figure it out. What you want to do is hold the tip so that it is perpendicular to the surface of the cake. So it's like basically, head on at a right angle to the side of the cake. And you're going to squeeze using steady pressure. And if you have a turntable, this is a great way to do it because you can basically hold your squeezing hand pretty much still and concentrate on maintaining steady pressure while you turn the cake with the turntable. And I'm not worried about the stripes of icing matching up perfectly. I can certainly come back and fill in any blanks, but I'm going to go over it all with a spatula anyway. And then to do the top, I'm basically just going to squeeze out whatever icing I have left in this bag onto the top of the cake. Now I can have fun smoothing the whole thing with a spatula. The reason this method works well and you don't get any crumbs is because you're actually using the cake icer tip to apply the icing to the cake, and so there's less risk that you're going to be pulling up crumbs by spreading the icing on the cake with a spatula. And honestly, I wouldn't try to ice a cake with stiff consistency icing using a spatula. I think the cake icer tip is the way to go because this way you have plenty of icing applied to the cake surface, and you can use your spatula to just scrape off that top layer, which will hopefully leave it smooth. And it's not going to get perfectly smooth, but I want to get it as smooth as I can with the spatula. The reason you want to use the stiff consistency icing is because it will crust over really well, and you need to use an icing that's going to crust over really well if you're going to smooth it with the Viva paper towels. And notice that I'm using 2 paper towels together, so I'm using basically 2-ply, and I'm just placing the paper towel gently on the cake and smoothing the surface using my fingers. Viva paper towels work really well for this because they're not patterned, so they're not going to leave any kind of texture, but they allow you to apply enough pressure so that you can even out any bubbles or creases or lines or any imperfections in your icing. And then you have a paper towel to wipe your cake board with.